shit. That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your Monday morning energizer covering insights and trends in higher ed marketing and enrollment. I'm Mallory Willsea, bringing over 15 years of ed tech and marketing expertise to your earbuds.
And I'm Seth Odell, joining the Pulse with my own adventures from leading marketing at top universities to founding Kanahoma, one of the industry's fastest growing digital marketing agencies.
Each week, we bring you the kind of insider insights you typically only find over cocktails with your pals at a conference.
It's fast, it's fun, and it's designed for you, the busy higher ed professional.
You're not just listening to another podcast.
You're checking the pulse of higher education.
Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at Enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Welcome back to The Pulse. We are live at EduWeb, and I am sitting with Anthony Machcinski, the Assistant Director of Marketing Communications at Manor College and EduWeb's official event photographer. I had the pleasure of meeting Anthony a couple years ago when I was on the faculty for EduWeb, and he is still back and snapping all the beautiful photos here. Anthony, thanks for taking some time out of your schedule. We're about halfway through the summit, so how is it going for you in your very unique role? And as you've been poking in on some of these sessions, like what has been standing out for you?
Yeah, so it's been going great. Thanks for having me on this. The thing with EduWeb that I really find different with other conferences is this is so much more of a collaborative event than I think other conferences I've been at, where you kind of just get talked to and it's not as relatable. So like Manor's a small school in comparison to Philadelphia, where, you know, there's the Big Five or City Six with Drexel, and Manor's small. You come here and you feel like you can collaborate with people and be like, hey, like we have a small budget, small everything in comparison to, you know, I remember being at a conference with a bigger school. I don't want to name them. And, you know, they're talking about their budgets in the millions. And, you know, we just did this rebrand that's multiple millions of dollars. I'm like, cool, we don't have that. So to come to EduWeb and like be able to have the speakers collaborate with people, I think is a really great aspect to this. And I think it flows throughout the whole thing.
I know we were both sitting in a little while ago on the student panel. I think for me, that's been the best session of this entire experience. For those of you who are listening but not here, a moderator interviewed, I think it was 6 or 7.
Yeah, sorry, seven different students. I love the panel. The panel was absolutely awesome.
I did too. My big takeaways, and then I'm going to ask you yours. My big takeaways were students are using TikTok to look at your school and they are searching for like a day in the life at insert school name. I was like, oh, that's interesting. One woman mentioned that she had emailed an institution 3 times. This is a woman who's going to USC, okay? She is a top tier student. She emailed an institution 3 times. They never once got back to her. And my third takeaway is how much financial aid factors into the decision-making. And even the students referenced the FAFSA fail this year. And when that happened, you should have heard the laughter in the room. All right, Anthony, what were your takeaways?
I think I had the same one you did about the financial aid one was for sure, because a lot of our students come from areas of Philly where financial aid is a big deal. And the one student said, like, I made my decision solely based on money, which, yeah, I agree. And there's the other student that said, I don't want to be someone who's 30 and having student loans to pay. And the entire room laughs because I would say most of us all have that. I think my biggest thing that I kept coming back to is the amount of email. So the one student, she's going to Arcadia or is in Arcadia. She said something like, I didn't like the amount of emails I was getting when I was going through the admissions process. And in particular, she said, you know, by the time I'd selected my big 3, you'd get schools that would tell her it's not too late to do this, that, or the other thing. And then an email 3 days later that said, we extended our application to you, da-da-da-da. And my initial gut feeling was, oh, we don't like it because, you know, it makes you feel desperate as a higher ed institution. but she said it made her feel muted. Like, it wasn't like, hey, like I did my stuff on time, but my stuff doesn't matter. Hey, like I did my stuff on time, like let's do this. And oh no, you're trying to get other people, not me. I thought that was a really interesting takeaway after. I did get some, that's the official photographer side note, is I can go and ask someone like, hey, I had this extra question that I didn't want to ask on a microphone.
That's wild. I think I missed that quote from her.
Yeah, that's why you missed it. I got the super secret photographer went up and asked after I took her photo at the end. So
Clearly. Well, it was incredible. I run the Engage Summit, which just happened a couple weeks ago. And me and my colleagues looked at each other and immediately were like, okay, we're doing a student panel next year, because it was just a highlight. But Anthony, I want to take us into something that actually you just said. You mentioned that Manor is small. You mentioned that one of the reasons you love the EduWeb Summit is because you can connect with other professionals who are similarly staffed and resourced as you. And what this typically leads into is a conversation about the doom and gloom of working in higher ed, and the perception that it is, under-resourced and really hard and a big pain and we don't get paid enough. And right, I think everyone listening right now is like, yep, I've heard this or I've said it probably within the last week. But as we got to talking before we officially hit record, you were actually articulating a very different perspective. And I'd love for us to kind of tease that out a little bit.
Sure, yeah. So for me, I started my career not in higher ed and not even in marketing, but as a journalist. I came up through a couple different newspapers before ending at the York Daily Record. And the biggest thing for me was I came to higher ed and it's a lot calmer. You guys get these nice summers off that, not necessarily off, but the big project summers. And, I tend to be someone, I think because journalism raised me this way, that like you have to be comfortable under chaos. You kind of don't know what each day is going to bring. I was a food reporter. We were talking about this before. I was a food reporter, and there were times that it's like, hey, we need someone to go out to a fire, or we need someone to go to a building collapse or something like that. And yeah, you kind of got to be ready for chaos. But higher ed was a nice landing ground for me. And I said to you before, higher ed kind of saved me and gave me a little more of a focus, I think. And it's not that other people shouldn't feel burnt out or anything like that. I totally understand. But I think culture-wise, it's different for me than it probably is for a lot of other people.
So you feel like you were cared for in higher ed. That's been a great landing place for you. I want to dig into the resourcing side. Your official title is Assistant Director of Marketing Communications. How many people are on this Marcom team, and how many hats are you wearing on the team?
Sure. So we're led by our VP of Marketing Communications. Our team total is 3. It's me, my VP, and then our creative services manager. And I would say we all wear a lot of hats. I mean, there's days that we've put on events and we're just kind of fluid on who's doing what. And, we know who the hierarchy is. Our VP does a great job. I'll shout her out because Kelly Pfeiffer does an excellent job at Manor. And, a lot of that burnout we talked about before and that a lot of people experience in higher ed, for me, a lot of that's been taken away because of her caring, her understanding. The times where I'm like, I don't know, like, am I doing the right thing? Like we work well enough together that she knows my personality quirks. And I think that's hugely important when you build your mark on teams. So under my title, I would tell you that I was originally hired as a writer, social media, PR focused person. But because of my background in journalism, where I have the photo and the video experience, it was able to up our quality as a whole in those departments. So it became a kind of looped into what I do at a pretty often pace, actually.
So let me get this right. You are writing content. You are doing photography and videography. Anything else?
Yeah, so I run our social media channels, mainly Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and we are working on our TikTok. It's something that I want to be better at. What did I miss? PR. PR is the one I missed. Yeah, so writing, photography, videography, social media, and PR all fall under me.
Anthony, for most departments, those are 5 different positions. And I think let's take it back. I think this is where a lot of the frustration exists for a lot of individuals. It's, to have even just the skill sets to do all 5 of those things. You're probably a unicorn. Most people don't have that. But to even just have the time to do each one of them well, right? I am hearing all the negative sides of this, yet it seems like you have really embraced it in such a way that maybe you're never bored.
Yeah, I think never bored's a good way to put it. I think what's nice about the way our small team works is, and we all know each other well enough that if someone is overloaded on one thing, one of us can usually take over. So, for example, if I need social graphics, a lot of what I do, and I heard someone say it today at one of the presentations, is we ask our graphic people to build a template and we work off the template. There's a lot of that between me and my creative services manager. If I can't make it to an event, actually, there's probably one right now at the college that I can't sit in and photograph. My vice president can go there and she'll take some photos and be able to help out that way. So we all kind of rely on each other. But for me, like having that, like I as a former journalist, like when you're not doing something, and a lot of my workplace anxiety comes out in nothing's going on. Okay, like someone's going to notice I'm not doing something. They're going to think I'm expendable. That means I'm going to get cut because I was used to being laid, not me personally, but I was used to getting laid off every 6 months. You'd see another round of layoffs come for the companies I worked for. So you kind of want to always be proving your worth. And higher ed's been, and I know there's closures and a lot of this stuff exists in higher ed, but the same fears aren't there. There's an ability to have all these positions kind of blend into one another where if I know I'm writing a story, yeah, it'd be nice if I don't have to take the photo, but I know the story well enough that I can capture the right photo. If I'm doing social media, I know what content is working. So if I want photos for a certain piece of work, or if I need a certain, like, I know a big thing for us is like graphics don't perform as well. Like just straight text graphics don't work as well for us. So I'm going to make sure that I have photos for everything I want to put on social media because that's what people care about. That blend in being able to do all that makes it interesting. It makes it fun. And there's an ebb and flow. So there's some times where I'm writing, 6-8 articles a month. There's sometimes that I might write one and do like 10 photo galleries or do a couple of videos or, graduation is a month and a half long buildup as opposed to a 2-week thing. So there's a lot of fun in that for me.
This is the glass half full perspective, and I love it. Anthony, it was so nice to sit down and just like hear some optimism from you being at a smaller institution and on a smaller team. So I really appreciate it. As we're wrapping this conversation up, do you have any parting thoughts?
So I guess I have two things that really come back to me, and it's all going to kind of center around positivity. It's like you have this culture that you can build in higher ed, and sure, we're all going to feel whether it's budget struggles or, students not being as active as we want or campaigns not working however we want them to or having to do too much and not take it home with you. We all feel that. But I think, especially as you get new people into your institution, making sure that if you are feeling those things, to not be vocalizing them constantly because that's contagious. Like very quickly can it be this thing that just hey, like you come in fresh to higher ed and I came in, and the team I'm working for does a great job of this is like, we event, we have our things. Sure. We'd love to have, I'd love to have like $1 million to just get a bunch of new photography equipment and all the nice mirrorless stuff that BYU has. But we also love our jobs. Like you get to experience things like kids graduating that you got to know over the last 4 years. And, I was telling you before, the one thing I did this year was I printed out photos because we have such a small school. I got to know these students and to be able to know their stories, and I printed out their photos and presented it to them on a reel and just said, hey, here's your photo. Tell me what you think. And, there's one student that literally cried and said, I don't recognize the girl I see in this photo. And it's really sweet. I know. I'll show you the video. It's going to be great. But I love that about this project. And those moments carry you when times are tough. And, we all feel budget struggles. We all feel that sort of stuff. I get it. But like what you do changes lives. And like trying to keep that in perspective as often as you can does help.
I don't think there's anything else to say on that. If you are looking to connect with Anthony, we will drop links to your Instagram as well as your LinkedIn in our show notes. Appreciate it so much, Anthony. Thanks for bringing that positivity to the Pulse. Until next time, y'all. Bye-bye. The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.